some good profits today. Well, market left us a really big clue right here. Let's talk about this in today's video. More big moves ahead. Now remember, in yesterday's video, I talked about this particular liquidity that I wasn't very comfortable with. I wasn't expecting it to be taken in a day, but the market does what it does. We just got to prepare for it. And very importantly, 10:43 yesterday. Now, this was at Thursday, 10:43 a.m. That's about here. This was 10:43. Now, these are live Discord analysis that I made in the server. And I talked about this very important magenta liquidity here. Now you see that magenta liquidity right here now. I was particularly concerned about that. And I want you to see for yourself how the market, 10:43, yeah. Right here, we saw the magenta building some liquidity here. And just take a look how beautifully it grabbed that liquidity on the way down here. Now, at 10:44, I talked about this. Right, so 10:43, I explained there's some bearish liquidity here at the magenta. And the magenta is right here. Now, it's important if you learned to identify the magenta algorithm, only then can you identify this bearish liquidity. You see the logic to that. So identifying this magenta was quite crucial in the early candles here. Now, after which I talked about this. There are two main sellers today, 10:44. Right, I talked about how there are two main sellers for the day in that green and blue, and that's something we identified quite early. And as you can see, that the selling commenced only with the blue and the green within the blue. You noticed the green and the blue. Right, so absolutely beautiful. Now, if you didn't catch that trade, then it would be very difficult to catch on to that trade because it just went down in that blue. This is just absolutely beautiful. I went down in the blue of 20 points. This is just green and blue for 20 points. So understanding this is very, very crucial, right? And I talked about that. And Discord server members, please review this later. 10:44 and 10:43 as I was talking about it. And as I always mention, this happens more than you realize. Once you're able to identify the algorithms, you're able to identify profits in the charts. So don't feel like you're missing out. Now, a big part of calling for the reversal is understanding this teal algorithm here. Now, if this teal is not being retested, try not to call for the reversal. Why? Because I talked about how within the blue, there will be sellers that are still queuing up their orders here. Right at 12 o'clock. And I've already reminded you that we are technically not out of the blue selling precision algorithm. And I gave you a demonstration here. Now, this is at 12 noon, which is about here, right? About here. This was about 12:04 in the afternoon. And I mentioned as long as we are in the blue selling algorithm, and you see it for yourself, especially when we are still below the 5-day moving average, that's just queued orders of selling. High likelihood of sellers still queuing the orders here. So once again, when you saw magenta building liquidity here, you saw some initial buying here. This was a good zombie trade. Yeah, if it took a zombie trade, well done, especially on the break of the teal here. In fact, I would have taken it from the break of the teal here with the orange guiding, showing that blue. I will cover this in the secret training videos. You can join the Patreon server. There are free resources available. You don't have to necessarily pay. You can just join, and there are free resources even on YouTube. Just do your best as much as you can, right? Okay, there you go. Now grab the liquidity again from the orange and once again from the magenta. That started building more liquidity here, isn't it? Right, so it started building more liquidity here in the magenta for the end of day. Right, we have varying orange and magenta. Especially here we have a dual algorithm setup. It was pretty beautiful here near the end and given the selling in the blue. This was a beautiful trade. So all because you identified the magenta algorithm. Now, if you watched yesterday's video, it was the same magenta that was doing the trick. You don't have to catch this every day. The point is about learning this so you can stop the guesswork, right? Even if you're guessing, you're doing it with minimal risk, maximize the rewards, all because you're able to learn to identify the risk with the algorithms here. So let's see, where do we go from here, right? Let's take a look at the 30-minute chart. We were talking about this particular liquidity I was pretty worried about yesterday, and we did grab it pretty quickly. I was expecting a couple of days, but yeah, so be it. The market does what it does. If it's a complete rejection of the range, you see all the engulfing candles, and especially this couple of wicks here. Now, this just tells me that the market has rejected the range cleanly and returned back into this orange selling continuation. So you can, well, effectively ignore this. Just treat this like a engulfing candle, because it is in a larger time frame. And returning back into the orange. It is also a head and shoulder pattern, but in that green selling now. So tomorrow, what you need to be looking out for is understanding that this is a continuation structure, right? We closed the inverse cup, as I mentioned. We had that head and shoulder pattern of the handle with that complete rejection here in that green selling continuation structure now. That's also part of this orange selling continuation. Nothing's changed, right? So pay close attention to that tomorrow. If we are continuing trending down in that orange, or right with that green selling, right? Green selling, green selling. You understand this in terms of its continuation structure here. Now, there are several structure here I want to be talking about, and that is one of this blue here. Now, ideally, we have some sort of retracement here of the orange and the blue. That will be ideal, right, to show that the sellers still have strength on the way down here. But otherwise, just be careful, because it's Friday tomorrow. I will be a little bit more cautious if we run out of continuation, right? Shorts may cover, and we start to have some sort of liquidity wedge that may be starting to form within this range here with the 5-day moving average within. So just be careful if we start getting pinned in the liquidity wedge. Now, any reversal here, you have to wait for 5-day moving average. That's not new information, right? So look out for the liquidity that's being built here, right? There is pretty nice liquidity at that 660 level. If we take a look, right, that was near to that 660 here, as well as the 664 level here. Pay close attention to this particular level here, where the 664 is this liquidity here, right? So pay close attention to that liquidity range here. If the market wants to grab the liquidity, this will be it. At first breaking out from that orange, which we have returned to. So several confirmation if this wants to bounce out, right? Orange first, 5-day moving average, and this magenta algorithm here. So pay close attention to all these three very important levels here. Quite straightforward day, I think, right? If you are not biased, right? So yesterday, it's quite dangerous, right? If you read too much online, or watch too many opinions instead of being focused to find profits in the charts. If you started the day with a bullish bias, you would be absolutely crushed. And that's why you cannot develop a bias. As much as, well, the mind is a weak contraption, right? It just wants to choose the path of least resistance and choose the easiest way out. That's how our mind is. If you don't train it enough, if you don't put it through training and discipline. So that's how we tend towards wanting to have biases or people making decisions for us. And that's what happens when you read or you start watching videos, hoping someone tells you what to do. That's a sign of, I'm sorry to use this word, but it's a sign of weakness. So I want you to not, well, the reason you're watching this video is because you're training yourself to think for yourself, to feed yourself for the rest of your life, even if I'm gone. So learn to use the algorithms. For example, make good risk-reward decisions for yourself, and you make great trade setups, you prepare for them. And that's what you need to be doing instead of having a bias, right? So be careful. the next time you have a bias, you have to take a step back and learn to find profits in the charts because, well, there's only two biases in the market. Yes, bullish, bearish, right? Sometimes it's choppy, so you get screwed both ways. But the point is, you will be right eventually if you have a bias. But you just have to be wrong once and your account will be blown. So you see the problem with that. That's the problem of trading. People think they can get it right because they have a bias. And all because they have got it right once. That's a false negative. And if you feed yourself enough of such trash in your mind, you start to think you're a genius. You start to think that's the right way to do it. And you forego actually thinking for yourself and actually making good preparation and good trades. So it doesn't matter, right? You have to prepare all possibilities. As I mentioned, this is like playing a sport or a game. You have to prepare all sorts of plays because you don't know what your opponent is up to. Right? You cannot just assume your opponent is going to be performing a certain play and you just prepare that one counter. You're going to lose. You're going to lose. Every single day you're going to get wrecked by the market. So I challenge you, train your mind. Stop having biases. Stop having people tell you what to do. Or stop relying on the easy way out or finding the path of least resistance, even in your life, not just in trading. You have to fight. You have to continue to train your mind, be at the best, make yourself uncomfortable because that's how we grow. You experience the discomfort, that's a sign of growth, especially if you put yourself through it because you know you are working towards something more enduring and something that will make you a better person. That aside, even if you miss this, as I mentioned, this happens more than you realize. So just keep watching. If you watch on my videos, you hear me repeat this. It happens more than you realize. And there's profits to be found every day. And I've shown you time and time again. I tell you this entire move here. Right? If you're greedy, you'll be like, yeah, I should have caught everything without understanding the technical analysis of this. But if you told me you caught the whole move because you were focused on that blue and green selling, which I remind you, I talked about that right here after we identified the two main sellers. Now, if you tell me you have held your runners because you understood the technical interpretation of the selling algorithms, then yes, congratulations, because you have a stackable way, something that you can replicate daily because you understand the mechanics and the concept behind this. But otherwise, truth be told, even this small, I can tell you, this small move here is 5 figures if you took 10 contracts of SPX, yeah. Probably 6 delta, 5, 6 delta. This is $10,000 right there. So you just have to learn to know how to be planning your trades, right? Doing good preparation here. So thank you very much for watching. Let's continue to wrap up the week strong. Friday tomorrow. Yeah, you've got this. If you need to take a break, go for it. Yeah, if you can't focus after you feel like you're missing this, but come on, you feel like you missed this only because you think trading is based on luck. The novice thinks that way, but people who have the skill, they thrive every day because we can find profits in the charts every single day. So I want you to start turning your mind and your trading career away from luck. Luck plays a part, yes, but if you're just depending on luck, depending on someone's tweet, for example, or depending on someone's opinion to help you make money, you will be in a mess. Eventually you will. And what's the point of that? Yeah. So don't worry about this. You have the skill. You can do this every single day. I'm not showing you every single day as I post the videos. So thank you very much for watching. I'll see you closer to opening bell. Please wrap up the week strong.